All right. Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Thursday night. It is the Earthmaster here on this end of the microphone. About 11:03 p.m. here, California time, 7/11/2024. I like that number, 3.4. The latest earthquake here in the Mediterranean area. Taking a look at the last 24 hours of earthquake movement. Goodness, we have a broad-scale event taking place here with the Pacific Plate in the last couple days, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious. If I were to bring back a couple more hours here on the globe, you can see all the broad activity all around the Pacific Plate, and of course that super deep earthquake there underneath the Philippines, 600 and something kilometers deep for that quake yesterday, but it's past the 24-hour time period, so we got to bring that down. With all that being said, we've seen so much activity out here, and I don't think we're done yet. Got to watch a few areas. Most of this activity that we're seeing in the larger scale across the eastern Pacific are in these divergent boundaries, meaning separation of the seafloor, creating new oceanic crust. That includes the area up here off the coast of the Vancouver Island ranges here. 6.4 coming in early this morning, 8 o'clock here, local time, California. Since then, well, let's see what we got. I know we've had a few more earthquakes than this. But let me bring up the EMSC model here real quick. Because I'm not 100% certain if they have any seismograph stations directly out there in the ocean, right? The EMSC still showing 3 as well, but I guarantee you there's got to be a little bit more than that. So there's been a few folks stating that this is normal. You know, there's always swarms out here. And let's look at the last 7 days of activity that we've seen here. We got to go actually back a little bit further than that because it's been about 10 days. And we've had about 21 earthquakes here of a decent size, anywhere from 4.0 up. They don't show the 3s. They're not showing the 2s. They're not showing the 1s that may be taking place out here, right? You got to remember for every 4, there's got to be a certain amount of earthquakes there below that. But so we have to work with what we got here. The 6.4, the latest, largest quake out here in this cluster, this swarm of earthquake activity out here. As far as the largest goes, since then we've seen a handful of smaller quakes, and I can't really say this is normal because I went back and looked on the chart here historically. I pulled up 4.5 and above since the records have been kept within the same area. You can see this little, it's just off of this Juan de Fuca ridge here to the north, roughly about in this area. And let's take a look at some of these magnitudes here. Here's today's earthquakes, right? There's quite a few of them, 2004, and that was only 4.5 and above. I'm sure it'd add more if I were to, go down a little bit lower. The last earthquake of any magnitude similar, I guess, is going to be this 4.6 back in 2022. Really wasn't a swarm. Had one in 2018, couple in 2008, some very small ones, 4.6 and a 5.2 around the same area. A couple in 1 2007, 1 2006. Seems like there's earthquakes every year or so. 2001 was a decent match to what we're seeing right now. Look at all these earthquakes back in 2001. Same area, 6.0, 5.0. There was a lot going on there, right? We got at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like 11 earthquakes. So in terms of maybe multitude of quakes, 2001 has this beat, but that was a long time ago if you really think about it, 23 years there. And as far as the magnitudes go, I think the 6.4 has, these beat, but there's quite a bit that happened back there in 2001. So to say it's common would not be a correct statement because we don't see swarms like this all the time. There's been some big quakes since 2001, not specifically up here along the Cascadia, but, you think about the Indian Ocean earthquake, the Japan earthquake. A lot has happened in terms of large magnitudes here since 2001. And, I'm more concerned about the Cascadia as a whole because if you think about it, this plate boundary here, this divergent zone, new seafloor. You can kind of see it out there on the oceanic crust there underneath the blue, is creating new ridges. That applies further strain out here against the Cascadia, which is, right up here. Extends from roughly about the Queen Charlotte Sound area. They believe this region right here might be fused together. The northern edge here of the Explorer Plate. But either way, I do think it's adding further strain out here. Let's see what this quake was, 6.0, 1926. Been a little while since we've seen any significant movement out here. There's got to be some earthquake activity from the result of all this divergent boundary movement. So let's see what we got. Anything kicking up here in Washington? 2.5, fairly deep, 36 kilometers here underneath the Seattle area, but really nothing of any major adjustment. Let me check out Earthquakes Canada real quick and see what we got. See, they mentioned here on their site, we are currently experiencing a swarm of activity offshore Vancouver Island range at the intersection there of the Juan de Fuca Ridge, the Savanco fracture zone, and the Nootka Fault. Either way, it's a bunch of fracture zones out there and ridges. Where's their map, though? I'm used to seeing their earthquake map to see what's going on, but it looks like they've done something different here. Previous reports. No, I don't want that. Where's my earthquake map at? Okay, looks a little odd. These guys are cool, though. They have a online site to where you can look at all their seismograph stations. And I was looking at it earlier. These are live seismos, and there's 1 hour of data, 10 minutes of data, and then 1 minute of data. It does look like there's some earthquake activity out there on the 1 hour data. So that's why I'm saying there's got to be more earthquake activity offshore here that's taken place that's not being reported by the USGS or the EMSC, but it is showing up there on the seismograph stations. It could be from this area, but also at the same time it could be from here. Hard to say. But I am not seeing their earthquake map like I normally would. It should just be right up here somewhere on their main page. And when you go over here, you click the area, it just goes to a list type view. I really don't want the list view. I want, the map here. But they did something different, so I'll have to look around and see if I can find it. Either way, definitely got some earthquake activity out here, and it's not really, it's mainly centered up here, but also down south here. Look at this along the Gorda Plate boundary. I had a 3.1 recently in this area, 10 kilometers deep, defaulted layer or default depth there for the for that earthquake. But if you look at the broad view, there's so much activity going on around the Pacific Plate. More divergent zone activity earlier this evening with a 5.8. So much movement. It does look like that deep earthquake over here and underneath the Manila area, or in the Philippines area in general, stirred up the Pacific Plate in general all around the region. Let's see what we got here for tremor real quick. Wow, 22. That's a little surprising. Only 22 epicenters here of tremor, and mainly down at the southern end of the Cascadia. Really was expecting some more up here, but doesn't mean that we're not going to see any, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to see any larger quake potential out here as well. But got to remember here, these ridges applying further strain out here against the Cascadia. Just really surprised we haven't seen any further uptick. Maybe we have, and we just haven't. They're not. Maybe people aren't reporting it up here. I don't know. Mount St. Helens area. There's a handful of earthquakes up and down the Cascades. I want to go check out the seismograph stations. As far as the raw data goes, this is the last couple weeks here of Mount St. Helens earthquake activity, and it's, there's been a handful of earthquakes. They've had their little swarm off and on down there around 5 to 6 kilometers deep. There's some surface waves from, I believe that's at 5.8 there along the Southeast Pacific rise. And far as that's a beautiful signature right there. That's going to be the 6.4 in the Juan de Fuca Ridge area off the coast of Vancouver Island ranges. They're beautiful, absolutely beautiful, large image, well-defined signature of a large quake in this area. But as far as localized activity, there's not a whole lot going on. Some of these quakes right here look like distant earthquakes. So there, like I'm saying, there may be more earthquake activity than a lousy 2 aftershocks following the 6.4 today. I can see there being more. They may not add them until who knows what. They may have to look at the data a little bit more. So continue to watch this area for some further movement. I don't think that's normal. I really can't say that that's common. Well, there's always swarms occurring out here. The last swarm that I can see that occurred in this area was back in 2001, but that's been 23 years here, and it's got to be adding some strain out here in general within this region. All right, let's look at the rest of Northern California here. 2.1, 15 kilometers deep here into the southern end of the Cascadia. The rest of Northern California fairly quiet. We did have a 3-pointer out around the Bay Area of San Francisco region, 3.1 near Brentwood, 17 kilometers deep. That's actually a fairly deep quake there off the Greenville Fault. Let's see. It has been reviewed. Quite a few folks did report film this 3-pointer out here. Let's see here. Looks like they're using this one here as far as the magnitude that they came up with. I like to look at these because I like to see what these other stations are claiming that this earthquake could be in terms of magnitude. A lot of 3s, a lot of 2s. It looks like it averages out around a 3.1, which what they figured. Aside from that, really nothing else going on here aside from some smaller quakes earlier. And Southern California here, spotty activity, really nothing major going on. 2.5 map removes all the earthquakes except for this 2.8 offshore of San Diego from earlier today. A couple trough zones out here, San Diego trough and the couple other different areas that can produce some large quakes offshore. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up here. Aside from look like the Quarry Blaster up north. These are some very small earthquakes. And just checking the live seismic or the recorded seismograph stations here. This is, it's a station that needs to be either taken offline or replaced with something that works appropriately, because I guarantee you the ground is not moving up and down like that. It's just the station is defunctioning there. It's not working properly. Look at this signature here on Yellowstone from that earthquake, the 6.4 that took place this morning off there in the Pacific, off the Vancouver Island ranges. Beautiful signature there as well. Didn't show up, barely showed up here on the borehole station. That's going to be it right here. A couple of these other stations, I guess, maybe even if an asteroid hits the Earth, it's not even going to show any sign of a signal. A little odd. This one up here as well, Soda Butte, nada, zip, zero. Some of these may be designed just to only pick up local activity, but I like to look at and observe all the stations out here that pick up even these large distant earthquakes, see what it does as far as the S waves. Local earthquake activity is going to be right here. A couple very small spikes. They may even be those little ones mentioned here on the map. Probably not. These are from way earlier. But nothing big going on there for now across Yellowstone. Rest of the country, notice Texas. What has happened out here? We've lost all of our earthquake activity out here in Texas, and normally this place is rocking out here. So there's definitely some adjustment going on in certain other areas of the North American and the Pacific Plate boundary, such as up here, and not so much down here across areas where the oil fields are. almost always getting hit. Look at the last 30 days of earthquake activity out here. Just in this general area alone, 333. There's my numbers. 333 earthquakes there into this area. I want that. Get off there. Thank you. So a lot going on out here previously to all this newer activity. So there's some interesting movement out here across the North American plate where it's gone quiet. I don't know. I just feel like I'm expecting something big to happen. Keep feeling some shaking going on, but it might just be my mind playing tricks on me. A couple of smaller quakes out here around Kansas and the New Madrid seismic zone from earlier, but really nothing major happening out there for now. But keep an eye on the Pacific plate. There's a whole lot of movement. And normally when there's a whole lot of adjustment and movement taking place, that's when we get super active out here. There's that 5.8 Central East Pacific rise in the fracture zone out here. You can see it, one of these zones. There's quite a few of them actually, but we do have that 5.8 from earlier this evening. Down here across the Tonga region, a newer quake, very shallow earthquake. Another deep quake here earlier this afternoon into the Tonga Trench. Well, it might be the Kermadec Trench here or Split. Take your pick. Either way, pretty deep, 522 kilometers deep. For that quake. New Zealand area does look like there's some smaller quake activity out here. I still think this is leading to something big. When things, I mean, look at that. When was the last time you guys, well, we got up here now, another 5.1. That just got added here, but it shows 953, so yeah, that's been up there for a little bit. Where's my green flag? All right, but either way, you know, look at this. You can pretty much draw a decent area around the Pacific plate that's showing quite a bit of movement. So we have to watch these areas that have not seen major adjustment out here recently. Let's go to the last 30 days, or last 7 days, 4.5 and above. What's really weird is we haven't seen any movement out here across Solomon Islands, Vanuatu area, Fiji area, in this little... there's a couple subduction zone areas that normally have some earthquake activity, and there's just nothing going on. It's a little odd, so I can't help but wonder what's going on with this area. New Zealand, I still think, needs to show a little bit of further movement with all the activity up and down and south of the area recently. We've seen a handful of threes, a lot of deep earthquake activity underneath North Island, but something is brewing out here, I think. Got to look at these quiet zones that are normally producing earthquake activity on any given day, and they haven't. It's a little weird. Nothing in the last 7 days in this region. So keep an eye on this area. I know it's quiet, but also at the same time, what do we got up here now? 3.5 coming into the around Mount St. Helens. What's going on there? There we go. There's that signature of that 3.5 kicking up. Mount St. Helens. This earthquake does look like it's just outside of that region, but showed up pretty nicely on that seismograph. 13 kilometers deep. See, we're starting to notice a little bit of increasing activity out here against the Washington region, and I believe it's because of what's going on here with this divergent zone activity, adding strain out here against the plate boundary. That's going to be the North American plate here, and we'll just draw a little thing right here. It pretty much begins little ways up here, and the strain, that's horrible. I know I'm on a mouse here, but all that strain is spreading and pointing in this general direction here. And you know, a lot of time this area up here in Washington and whatnot will see deeper earthquakes into the Cascadia subduction zone down below where the tremor takes place. And I can't help but wonder, maybe we're going to see a deeper quake, a larger, deeper quake underneath this area soon, because it's earthquake up here around Seattle. Now this 3.5 coming in. It does look like, you know, the strain is showing out here quite nicely. And just, you know, it's a good time to be prepared. Have an earthquake plan. I did hear that the early alert system up here was activated throughout throughout Washington. I think even Canada, or the Canada up here has their own early alert system from that earthquake. But fortunately, this was a good distance off of land. But it's a good time to be prepared with all this swarming activity that's been taking place, and we got all this newer activity popping up as a result. Nothing big yet, but it's these little telltale earthquakes here that are making me think that we're going to see something a little bit larger out here. Again, beautiful signature, 3.5 underneath this region. It has been reviewed. That's a quick review. Let's see what we got for magnitudes. They went with, well, this is about the only one. Some of these stations reporting a 4-pointer, 2s and 3s, a couple 4s in there. So all this gets averaged out into a specific number, but there's a lot more 4s than there should be. Look at all that. It could get revised. Who knows? Who knows? But even though it's been reviewed, it could get revised. Looks like a few folks out here did report feeling it, even down to St. Helens, Olympia area. One response or so. So anyway, we'll continue to watch it. There's just a lot going on here, folks. The rest of the globe here, there's that 5.1 way up along the Aleutian Trench. Fairly new. Typical clustering going on out here across the area of the Philippines. I say that because we're almost always seeing earthquake activity out here, but I was expecting to see some adjustment following that large earthquake here yesterday, that 7.1, but there's really been no major adjustment. A couple smaller earthquakes that happened prior up along the subduction zone, but really no major adjustment here. So it looks as though it may have backstrained the entire Pacific plate out here. Let me get rid of that. There we go. And of course, what goes on around the Pacific plate affects the hotspot, right? Hawaii, major hotspot out here, Kilauea volcano. One volcano that we're watching, 32 earthquakes up here, mainly around the summit region. Let's go take a look here at the volcano hazards map and see what's up. Looks like it's still sitting at a yellow and advisory. Latest update was put out today, 7/11. The volcano is currently not erupting. Earthquake activity has increased over the past 24 hours, and activity beneath the upper east rift zone has decreased. So that's what I'm saying. You can see it. Go back here. You can see it kicking up more up here across this area than what we had seen down in this region over the last week or so. That could be a sign here that we're could possibly see some further eruptive activity up here within this region. Now remember, last month we had that southwest rift zone down here that crack open up a little bit and produce a 10-hour long eruption. Very minimal though. Let's get back here. Any substantial increases in seismicity and or deformation could result in a new eruptive episode. But, for good wording, they have to put this in here just to calm the nerves. There are no signs of an imminent eruption at this time. But I guarantee you, when we see that seismicity and earthquake activity and deformation really ramp up, it's only a matter of time before then. So 52 earthquakes detected beneath the Kilauea caldera and 5 earthquakes detected beneath the upper east rift zone. Let's go check out the deformation data here real quick. Still going up. Yeah, there's the vertical displacement right here for the past 2 days, still going up. Past week, going up, obviously. And the past month of activity. If we could go back a little bit further, you'd see where the eruption caused a very brief drop in the deformation chart. But we're going up and up and up. And, the question is, how much longer are we going to be able to sustain the amount of pressure going on here across this area? Very good question. I guess we'll see, right? Yeah, still remaining steady at a 3.5. All right, let's look out here. A little bit of movement out around the Arabian Sea area, 4.9 off the coast of Yemen in the Owen fracture. Oh, I thought this was the Owen fracture zone. Well, let me see here. East Sheba Ridge. Oh, there's the Owen fracture zone down here. I guess they revised it. It was down here, if I remember right. I got the notification there on my earthquake app. But they moved it a little bit up to the East Sheba Ridge. Another divergent boundary activity. That's the one thing I've noticed. There's been a lot more earthquake activity in these divergent boundaries than normal. Definitely noticeable. Puerto Rico area, the rest of the Middle America Trench out here, 4.6 it looks like from early this morning. But the Puerto Rico area looks fairly quiet, aside from a handful of very small earthquakes. 3.3 out here in the Philippines right now. It's just, the best thing to do, folks, is just be prepared, because, it's really kicking up a lot more than normal. Something definitely brewing out here across the Pacific. All right, let's check out space weather here real quick. We're pretty much flatlining down here into the sea flare category. Notice here on the 3-day, we have a little bit of potential G1 class storming, and that is because of a coronal hole out here. Number 52 is spewing out some high-speed solar wind streams at us, solar wind, and that could amplify the aurora conditions here on the 13th and 14th. We'll cover that a little bit better tomorrow. But as far as tonight's activity and tomorrow night, it looks fairly minimal. Not a whole lot of aurora forecast. But again, potential. Not a huge coronal hole, but it is producing a little bit of high-speed solar wind stream in the Earth-directed view. There is 3738, beautiful sunspot. That is currently facing the Earth, but I think if it wants to do anything as far as any major flares Earth-directed, it should do it soon. Here in a couple days, it's going to be scooting along pretty quickly off towards the western limb. Still quite dynamic, but I'm really surprised it's holding steady. Just looking pretty on the Earth-facing side of the sun. We're left back over here on the eastern areas, fairly disorganized. Not a whole lot of any new growth. So keep an eye on this one. We'll see. Overall threat right now shows a elevated 15% chance for that X flare, C flare around 99, and M flare at 60. And I believe the X flare is due to that sunspot 3738 right there, the one I just showed you guys. All right, let's see what else we got. Anything major going on out in the tropics? I do have out in the eastern Pacific, way out here, it shows a 0% chance of formation, but something maybe to keep an eye on. Formation chance through the next 7 days, low at 20%, way down south. Central Pacific out here in the Hawaii area, nada in the Atlantic Ocean. This is some type of disturbance, but it looks like formation chances are very low even through the next 7 days. But it does show some type of just probably a cluster of thunderstorm activity associated with that low. And of course, as we put things into motion here, this is the forecasted model that goes away, and well, let's see what's up here as we go down further deeper into July. I really don't see anything of major significance shown up there on the forecast model as far as tropical development goes. It does look like we got something going on out here in California. Maybe some moisture being pulled up here from the monsoonal area. That would be beautiful. I would say bring it on, because it's hot. We hit 111 today. It's supposed to be 115 for the day on Friday. Yes, 115. That's going to be the air temperature, not the feels like. That's the actual air temperature. All right, that's about it for now, folks. Look at that. Okay, so there's that 3.5. When we bring the amplitude down there, it looks as though there's been a handful of, at least another aftershock. 1, 2. You guys see that? That's going to be a 3.5 near Mount St. Helens, and then another small quake, and then another one right here. Let's see, are they reporting it? Oh, they're actually reporting the one-pointer. See, there's a 3.5, then a couple minutes later, another one-pointer. So, and then another smaller quake after that. But either way, folks, you know, it's something to watch here. I don't think this is normal one bit to see this amount of earthquake activity out here. If I remember right, 2000... Was it 2003 that we've seen a super deep earthquake into the subduction zone up here outside of Seattle? If I remember right, 6.9 or 7.1. It was really deep. So that would coincide with that movement that took place a couple years prior out here, that swarm in 2001. It may have been in 2001 when we've seen that deeper activity. I'll have to double check that in the morning. But I like to compare past, swarming scenarios and see what happened, maybe immediately following the swarming, maybe days later, months later, what happened following that activity. So we'll just keep an eye on it out here across the Cascadia. Another quake down here in Hawaii. So we'll catch you guys back out here in the morning. Stay safe. Make sure you guys have an earthquake plan. That's the best thing you guys could do. We've been living in some pretty much quiet times, right? Haven't really heard of any major earthquake activity, damaging quakes out here across the states. And we hear about these big ones out here in the Philippines, right? Fortunately for these guys, it was a super deep quake, limiting the damage. But it's not always going to be quiet like this at all. There's going to be periods of elevated earthquake activity, and I think that's what we're maybe heading into right now. We'll catch you guys back out here in the morning. Tomorrow morning, Friday, right? Made it to the weekend. Well, we made it to the Friday. It's not quite the weekend yet, but hey, it is pretty much in my mind. Friday is the weekend. Have a good one. We'll see you guys back out here in the morning. Stay safe.